We all have that one image burned into our brains from 2007, don't we? The flashbulbs popping like gunfire, the buzz of a razor, and that infamous green umbrella clashing against a car window. For years, the headlines told us we were watching a pampered starlet lose her mind. But what if we were actually witnessing something much more human? What if that wasn't a breakdown, but a desperate, final cry for help from a woman who was being hunted like prey? You see, the world loved to watch Britney Spears fall, but nobody wanted to ask why she was stumbling in the first place. It's wild to think about how we went from seeing her as the ultimate princess of pop to seeing her as a woman stripped of every single one of her basic human rights. Seriously, just take a minute to wrap your head around that. One day, you're the most famous girl on the planet, and the next, you're not even allowed to drive your own car. Can you imagine the frustration? We're talking about a woman who couldn't choose her own doctor, couldn't go for a solo drive to clear her head, and couldn't even decide what to eat for dinner without a team of people signing off on it. It's like she was living in a gilded cage where the bars were made of legal documents and non-disclosure agreements. Before we continue this deep dive into the mystery, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. We love seeing how far the Britney army reaches across the globe. Now let's talk about the legal monster in the room, the conservatorship. Most of us had never even heard that word before it became synonymous with Britney's life. Usually, these arrangements are reserved for the elderly or people with severe cognitive issues who truly can't take care of themselves. But here was Britney Spears, a woman who was literally headlining a Las Vegas residency, performing high-energy choreography every night, and generating millions of dollars in revenue. If she was sick enough to need a conservator, how is she well enough to be a human ATM for everyone around her? It just doesn't add up, does it? For nearly 14 long years, her father, Jamie Spears, was the man pulling the strings. He sat atop a $60 million fortune, controlling her every move and every penny. Rumors say the control was so tight that she felt like a prisoner in her own home. The legal machine behind her was massive, a complex web of lawyers and managers who all seemed to be getting a piece of the pie, while Britney was left with the crumbs of her own autonomy. You have to wonder, why did it take so long for the truth to finally leak out? Why did everyone stay silent while the golden child of America was being treated like a ward of the state? It really makes you think, doesn't it? If this kind of systemic control could happen to the most famous, most photographed woman in the entire world, what does that say about our legal system? Is anyone truly safe if their family decides they want to take the wheel? The struggle against Jamie Spears wasn't just a family feud, it was a battle for the very soul of a woman who had given everything to her fans. But to understand how we got to that court-mandated cage, we have to go back. We have to look at the early days, before the cameras turned into a weapon and before the Princess of Pop became a prisoner of her own fame. How did a little girl from Kentwood, Louisiana become the center of a global human rights movement? The journey from the Mickey Mouse Club to the Los Angeles Superior Court is darker than you might think, and the cracks in the foundation were there long before she ever picked up that razor, long before the legal battles and the global headlines. Britney was just a kid with a massive voice and a work ethic that would put most adults to shame. Think back to those Mickey Mouse Club days. She was surrounded by future legends like Justin Timberlake and Christina Aguilera, but the spotlight on her was always a bit more intense, wasn't it? From day one, it felt like she was being groomed for a level of perfection that's simply impossible to maintain. Was the pressure too much from the start? Many people think so. Imagine being 10 years old and having the weight of an entire family's financial future resting on your small shoulders. That kind of stress doesn't just disappear, it seeps into your bones. By the time Baby One More Time hit the airwaves, Britney wasn't just a singer anymore. She was a global industry. We're talking about the toxic era where she was literally the face of pop culture. But here's the thing, the more successful she became, the less she seemed like a person and the more she felt like a highly profitable product. The industry didn't want a girl with feelings. They wanted a hit-making machine. But at what cost? Behind the scenes, the grind was relentless. It was all tours, rehearsals, and interviews with barely a second to breathe. You have to wonder if anyone ever stopped to ask her how she was actually doing, or if they were all too busy counting the checks. Then came the wolves. The paparazzi war of the mid-2000s was something out of a horror movie. We're talking about dozens of grown men with cameras chasing a young mother through the streets of Los Angeles day and night. They weren't just taking pictures, they were hunting for a reaction. It was psychological warfare disguised as entertainment. Can you imagine stepping out of your house and being blinded by hundreds of flashes every single time? It's no wonder her mental health began to fracture. The press didn't just document her struggle, they actively participated in driving her toward the edge. As the years of the conservatorship dragged on, fans began to notice strange breadcrumbs in her Instagram posts. Have you heard about the yellow shirt theory? Fans would comment, "Wear yellow in your next video if you need help." And then, boom, there she was in a yellow top. The captions were even weirder. They were cryptic, filled with emojis, and felt like they were written by someone else. The Free Britney army wasn't just obsessed, they were observant. They saw a woman who looked locked in, a star whose light was being dimmed by the very people who were supposed to protect her. But wait, it gets even more intense. Everything changed in 2021 when Britney finally spoke for herself. In a bombshell court testimony, she didn't just speak, she roared. She revealed that she was forced to have an IUD to prevent her from having more children, despite her wish to start a family. She spoke about being put on lithium against her will, making her feel drunk and incapable. Hearing her voice shake as she detailed her lack of privacy was the wake-up call the world needed to finally believe. It makes you look at Team Britney in a whole new light. Who was actually looking out for her? It seemed like Jamie Spears and the inner circle were more interested in the paycheck than the person. The people who were supposed to be her safety net had become her jailers. When $60 million is at stake, family loyalty can evaporate fast. But how did a group of internet sleuths manage to spark a global revolution that the high courts couldn't ignore? These fans were connecting dots that the media had ignored for over a decade. They were ready to fight for her freedom no matter the cost. But could they actually win against a system so incredibly, massively, and undeniably powerful? The energy on the streets of Los Angeles changed almost overnight as the Free Britney movement exploded from a niche internet theory into a global revolution. It's wild to think that people once dismissed as crazy conspiracy theorists ended up being the very people who actually helped save her life. They were the ones standing outside courthouses in the sweltering heat, waving pink signs and demanding justice for a woman they had never met. It wasn't just a fandom anymore. It was a legitimate human rights campaign that caught the attention of the world. This grassroots pressure forced the mainstream media to finally look in the mirror and realize they had been the problem. Suddenly, the long silence from Hollywood finally began to break. Major stars who had watched from the sidelines for over a decade found their voices. Icons like Cher tweeted about the injustice, and Miley Cyrus screamed "Free Britney" during her live performances. Even her exes and former peers started to weigh in, realizing that the narrative was shifting. But you have to ask yourself, why did it take a decade for Hollywood to stand by one of its biggest legends? It's a bittersweet realization, knowing she was fighting this battle alone for so many years while the world just watched the tragedy unfold from afar. The climax of this long, painful saga finally arrived in that Los Angeles courtroom. On November 12th, 2021, the world held its breath as Judge Brenda Penny made the decision that would change history forever. When she announced that the conservatorship was terminated, effective immediately, without requiring any medical evaluation, the explosion of joy outside was absolutely deafening. People were literally dancing in the streets, popping confetti, and crying tears of pure relief. For the first time in nearly 14 years, Britney Spears was a free woman. She was no longer a ward of the state. She could finally drive her own car, spend her own money, and make her own choices. But freedom is a complex thing, isn't it? Once the legal chains were gone, Britney didn't just disappear into the sunset. She decided to reclaim her narrative in the loudest way possible with her memoir, The Woman in Me. This book was more than just a bestseller. It was a targeted strike against everyone who had ever wronged her. She spilled all the tea about her past relationship with Justin Timberlake, revealing heartbreaking details about an abortion and the way she was portrayed in the media after their breakup. It felt like she was finally getting her revenge through the simple, devastating power of her own words. She was no longer a punchline. However, as we watch her navigate her life today, the conversation has shifted. If you follow her on Instagram, you know things are, well, unconventional. The videos of her dancing intensely in her living room have sparked a whole new wave of speculation and concern. Some worry that she isn't truly fine, while others argue that this is exactly what freedom looks like. A woman who spent her life being told how to move, finally doing whatever she wants, regardless of how weird it looks to the public. There's also the ongoing heartache regarding her relationship with her sons, which remains strained. It's a reminder that while the legal battle is over, the healing is beginning. So what does the future hold for the Princess of Pop? Will she ever return to the stage, or is the Britney we knew gone forever? Many believe she's done with the industry for good, and honestly, Who could blame her? Her freedom isn't a neat, happy ending. It's the start of a messy, complicated, and deeply personal new chapter. She's learning to live for herself for the first time. Do you think Britney is finally safe, or are we just watching another version of her struggle in real time? Let me know in the comments, and stay tuned, because next time, we're diving deep into another celebrity mystery you love.